For the final segment of the show, CMS Insider, we want to get Scott's takes on this change in the customer experience perception and the customer experience management.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about setting expectations, meeting them, the changes in the expectations. You actually have a formula that you create for people who want to, I'm a big ROI guy, you actually get to show people and talk about how to measure and how to think about customer experience in a formulaic way.
Yeah, I think we talk about this a lot. It's fairly simple. Customer satisfaction is the customer's perceived experience, which is the experience that they actually have and how they view it, minus their expected experience, the experience that they expected to have coming into the scenario or into the interaction, is actually results in the change in their satisfaction, right? So if you think about that, if you think about, I don't know, Dairy Queen ice cream, I think of that, I go and I have some ice cream and it's okay, it's a 6 out of 10. It's soft serve ice cream for me, I'm fine with it. But I came into it expecting a 6 out of 10, and so quite frankly, I'm satisfied, I'm okay, there's no change for me, which is a little bit different than what Stan talked about earlier in the show. Whereas if in fact, I see a commercial where they are marketing Dairy Queen and they're basically saying, oh, it's all new and improved products, and if your kids have it, they'll fall asleep by 7 o'clock at night, then I walk into that scenario, I have my ice cream, it's still only a 6 out of 10, it's not any better than I expected, but my expectations are really high now. At that point, I'm gonna have a negative satisfaction. So the idea here is that customer expectations, yes, they can be heightened by a lot of factors, including competitors, et cetera. But they're also heightened by, frankly, marketing. If we think about that part of the formula, marketing is only really affecting the expectations. We're really not affecting the actual perceived experience. Usually, that's my interactions with a product, that's my interactions with a service, somebody on the other end of the phone, and so what I really liked about the conversation earlier that we had is that they both talked about this holistically, that this is not just the domain of the marketer. Finally, I think we're going to enter a new era of customer experience management where it's not just owned by marketing, because we're realizing that the entire organization really has to get their arms around it. And if it just is, based on the marketer, then we're only going to set expectations too high and we'll never.
And then maybe that's the problem, right? With but the expectations are also being set by the consumer. So on some level, the marketer would say, "I'm just trying to meet the expectations they've laid out there."
Well, that's valid, but I think if we think about what the journeys, that the customer journeys that the marketer can affect are typically along the buyer's journey, right? It typically tends to be pre-sale. Now, that's not totally true. All sorts of brand advocates will tell you that there's plenty of kind of post-sale effects that marketing has, but it tends to not so be based on the product. And so if marketing gets really good at it, and there's some statistics out there about this, if marketing gets really good at it, then and you're not improving the product or the actual service, then I think we set ourselves up for failure.
But so if this is a full sweeping organization issue, this really, we talked about at the beginning of the show how Adobe is really talking about selling to the CEO. It's not just a C-suite conversation. This is really about the lifeblood of your organization and your whole culture shift that has to change.
Well, what Shantanu talked about in that is actually he's not just talking to the CMO anymore, but now he's talking to the CMO, to the CEO, and all of the C, which is the right way to approach it. And I think for a long time, Adobe was just mostly looking at the marketing side. Forrester did a study not very long ago. They actually have and I don't tend to like to quote Forrester a whole lot, but I'll do so in this case. Forrester has a customer experience index where they track 299 Fortune 500 companies, and they talk to customers of theirs on a quarter-by-quarter basis to understand whether or not they're satisfied or dissatisfied, essentially their customer experience with these brands. The brands obviously know full well that they're being tracked, so they're really trying to do their best to improve this and move kind of up the index, right? What has puzzled Forrester, which makes me chuckle a little bit, but what has puzzled them over the past couple of quarters is that only 2% of, which results in 7 of them, about 7 of the 299 companies have actually improved their customer experience from quarter to quarter, while 70% of them have only stayed the same, and almost a whopping 30% of them have actually decreased. Now, this is while they're focused on trying to improve it, like in a big way. I say, and I'd posit, Stephen, that the reason for that drop by many of them, or the stay the same, is because they focused on that marketing experience, that buyer's journey experience. We get really good at getting all of the digital capabilities in line and heightening that expectation, and they're not focused on kind of what we would really naturally expect one to focus on when you're improving the experience is my experience as a customer, post-prospect.
So what do I do? So I'm sitting there now and I'm saying, okay, I buy into this, I get it. I'm not sure whether I want to do what Stan's telling me, which is I need to exceed it, but I know I need to be better at it, and I know for sure it's changing. You've convinced me of that. What do I do? Where do I begin? How do I change my organization? I'm sitting inside an organization right now. You deal with this a lot, I'm sure.
Yep.
And they say, okay, Scott, I hear you, I believe you, but I'm one of,
Yep.
and I only control this. My budget's only here. What do I do? Where do I start?
Totally right. So first of all, if you are in the marketing department and you have been kind of assigned to own this, first of all, use your marketing skills internally and evangelize this notion. So, and that's right, you do need to get buy-in from the top. But even if it's not a company-wide thing, I think she's also right when she talks to you about looking at your various journeys. Look at all the journeys. Are you falling down on any of them? Is there anything that doesn't meet the expectations that you're setting as a marketer? And if so, go and find the owner of that particular journey. It's probably somebody that owns service, that owns the product, that owns what, and talk to them about, listen, we need to go lift this up because basically you're killing our brand, you're killing the experience. And so I think we can just, in the same way that they answer, how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time, I think take one journey at a time. Find those highest priority journeys, which are those that you're falling down most often on, and that are kind of losing the game for you, and go figure out how to fix those first and kind of go one at a time, while also tempering your desire to go and over heighten expectations, because that's only going to make it harder to meet.
So one final question. We talk a lot about the journey map. Who owns mapping the journey in an organization? Who owns understanding what it is and what it should be?
I don't know if there's necessarily has to be an owner per se. Oftentimes people will get outside consultants to help them come in and look at all the various journeys. Certainly if there is a customer experience officer or in an organization, they will have done that. It might also be, quite frankly, if you truly have kind of an outside-in company where everyone kind of owns their own piece of the pie and we all look at ourselves through the lens of the customer, then assumably every kind of department owner or interaction owner is going to look at it through that lens and have a good understanding of their own journeys that relate to their piece of the pie.
Fantastic. That's all the time we have for today's show, folks. But make sure to catch our next show, which will be held live at the Hyatt Regency Boston Harbor for the Intra.net Reloaded event. Or view all our previous shows on demand and blog commentary at CMS-Connected.com. And before we go, I'd like to thank both of our sponsors, Falcon Software and Digital Clarity Group. On behalf of my co-host,
Scott Liewehr.
I'm Steven Saber, saying so long and thank you very much for joining us. See you all next time. So get connected.
Stay connected.
Right here on CMS Connected.